from isolation to inner fire. Napoleon Bonaparte entered the world without privilege. No one expected greatness from him. No prophecy followed his birth. No crown waited for his head. Corsica was a land of conflict and survival, a land where loyalty mattered more than law, a land where children learned toughness early. Napoleon grew up surrounded by tension, political arguments, family struggles, pride mixed with frustration. His mother Letizia shaped his character deeply. She believed pain creates strength. She believed discipline builds survival. She did not raise her children with softness. Napoleon learned early that comfort weakens the mind. He learned that silence builds observation. He learned that control begins inside. As a boy, he felt misunderstood. His temper was sharp, his emotions intense. But he learned to lock them away. He did not express anger. He stored it. He did not complain. He planned. When France sent him to military school, Napoleon entered a world that rejected him instantly. He was different in speech, different in culture, different in appearance. He stood alone among wealthy students, boys who laughed loudly, boys who had futures prepared for them. Napoleon had nothing prepared, so he prepared himself. Every insult became fuel. Every joke became motivation. Every night alone became training. He read until his eyes hurt. He memorized geography. He visualized battles that had already happened, and imagined battles that had not yet occurred. He was not trying to fit in. He was preparing to rise above. Napoleon discovered that emotion clouds judgment. So he trained his mind to stay cold, calm, controlled. He learned that fear is contagious, but confidence spreads faster. Teachers began noticing something unusual. Pause. His understanding of artillery was exceptional. Pause. He calculated distances instinctively. Pause. Angles became natural to him. He did not see chaos. Pause. He saw structure. Pause. When the French Revolution erupted. Pause. Napoleon watched closely. Pause. He did not rush. Pause. He did not speak loudly. Pause. He observed how power moved. Pause. How crowds followed strength. Pause. How weakness was punished. The collapse of the monarchy opened doors, but only for those ready to walk through. Napoleon stepped forward. He accepted assignments others avoided. Pause. He entered unstable regions. Pause. He handled situations with precision. In Toulon, he faced his first real battlefield. Pause. The city was controlled by enemies. France was desperate. Napoleon proposed a bold artillery plan. Pause. Risky. Unconventional. Pause. It worked. The city fell. Napoleon was promoted. For the first time, authority recognized his value. But recognition did not change him. It sharpened him. He understood something critical. Success creates attention. Attention creates enemies. So he stayed focused. Italy became his proving ground. He arrived to command an army that was hungry, tired, and hopeless. Men without shoes. Men without belief. Napoleon did not promise comfort. He promised victory. He spoke with certainty. He spoke with vision. He moved faster than tradition allowed. He broke rules that slowed progress. He attacked supply lines. He divided enemy forces. He forced opponents into panic. Victory after victory followed. Soldiers began to see him as more than a general. They saw destiny. Napoleon shared their hardship. He slept little. He ate little. He earned loyalty through presence. His enemies underestimated him repeatedly. They paid for it every time. Europe began recording his movements. Maps changed. Borders shifted. Napoleon was no longer just a man. He was momentum. Yet inside him something else grew. Not just ambition, but belief. Belief that he was chosen. Belief that limits did not apply. That belief would carry him upward. And later, it would carry him down. power, control, and the illusion of invincibility. When Napoleon returned to France after Italy, he was no longer just a general. He was an idea. People saw hope in his victories. Soldiers saw safety in his leadership. Politicians saw danger. France at that time was exhausted. Years of revolution had broken trust. The government was weak, divided, and corrupt. People wanted order, not speeches, not promises. Napoleon understood human nature deeply. He knew people follow strength, especially when fear is everywhere. He stayed quiet. Pause. He watched leaders argue. He watched systems fail. Then he moved, through calculated alliances, strategic timing, and controlled force. Napoleon took power, not through chaos, but through precision. He became first consul. In reality, he became the center of gravity. Nothing moved without his approval. Nothing survived without his support. Napoleon worked relentlessly. He slept little. 3. He read constantly. He demanded efficiency. France began to change rapidly. Laws were rewritten. Institutions were reorganized. Corruption was punished. Merit was rewarded. The Napoleonic Code created order where confusion ruled. 4. The first time, citizens knew their rights, their duties, their limits. France stabilized. The economy improved. Infrastructure expanded. Napoleon became indispensable. But stability was not enough for him. He believed France needed permanence, and permanence required a crown. Then, in a moment that shocked Europe, Napoleon crowned himself emperor. Not waiting for approval, not asking permission, he placed the crown on his own head. This act was symbolic. It said, "I owe nothing to tradition. I answer only to destiny." Europe reacted with fear. Old kings felt insulted, threatened, angry. They formed coalitions. They gathered armies. They prepared for war. Napoleon welcomed it. War was his natural environment. He reorganized the French army into corps, independent units that could move fast and fight alone. This innovation changed warfare forever. Napoleon moved quicker than his enemies could think. He forced battles on his terms. He controlled timing and location. At Austerlitz, he defeated larger, combined armies using deception, positioning, and psychological pressure. Enemies believed they had advantage. Napoleon allowed that belief, then destroyed it. Austria fell. Prussia collapsed in weeks. Their armies shattered. Europe could not understand how one man kept winning. The answer was simple. Napoleon planned deeper than anyone else. He studied logistics, supply routes, weather, morale. He attacked weaknesses, not strength. But constant victory creates distortion. Napoleon began believing his intuition was infallible. He dismissed concerns. He ignored hesitation. Spain became a wound. What he thought would be easy became endless resistance. Guerrilla warfare drained resources. Soldiers suffered. Control slipped. Still, Napoleon pressed forward. Then came the decision that defined his downfall. Russia. Napoleon believed he could force submission. He believed numbers guaranteed success. He believed fear would break resistance. He assembled the Grand Army, the largest force Europe had ever seen. Hundreds of thousands marched east, confident, disciplined, certain. But Russia did not fight conventionally. They retreated. They burned crops. They abandoned cities. Napoleon marched deeper. Longer supply lines. Less food. Growing exhaustion. He reached Moscow, but found ashes. Winter arrived early. Cold consumed the army. Hunger destroyed discipline. Soldiers froze while marching. Horses collapsed. Morale evaporated. Napoleon had no decisive enemy to defeat. Only distance, cold, time. The retreat became a nightmare. Thousands died. Thousands deserted. The legend cracked. Europe saw weakness. For the first time, Napoleon looked human. And enemies prepared for the final act. Fall, exile, reflection, and the final lesson. After the disaster in Russia, the world changed its posture toward Napoleon. Fear slowly transformed into confidence. Confidence turned into resistance. Nations that once bowed, now united. Old enemies forgot their differences, because they shared one goal: to end Napoleon. France was still strong, but it was bleeding. Resources were stretched. Soldiers were exhausted. Napoleon still believed in his genius. He still trusted speed, intelligence, and surprise. But time was no longer on his side. Coalition armies advanced from every direction. Napoleon fought with brilliance, winning smaller victories, delaying the inevitable. But numbers mattered now. Supply mattered. Rest mattered. France could no longer replenish losses. In 1814, Paris fell. The capital surrendered. Napoleon was forced to abdicate. For the first time in his life, he lost control. He was sent into exile on the island of Elba. A small island, limited power, limited reach. For most men, this would be the end of identity. For Napoleon, it was a pause. On Elba, he observed again. He studied again. He planned again. He watched France struggle under weak leadership. He sensed dissatisfaction. He sensed opportunity. And then he made history one last time. Napoleon escaped. He returned to France without an army, without weapons, but with belief. As he marched, soldiers sent to stop him joined him. Officers lowered their weapons. Crowds cheered. Without a single battle, Napoleon reclaimed power. These became known as the 100 Days. Europe reacted instantly. They would not allow a second rise. Armies mobilized. Time shortened. Napoleon prepared for one final gamble: Waterloo. The battlefield was soaked with rain. Mud slowed movement. Cannons sank. Timing collapsed. Napoleon was ill, exhausted. Still commanding, he made decisions under pressure. Some delayed, some imperfect. The enemy held position. Reinforcements arrived. The moment slipped away. When defeat became clear, Napoleon did not run. He accepted reality. The battle ended. So did the era. This time, there would be no return. Napoleon surrendered to the British. He was sent far away, to St. Helena, a remote island in the middle of the ocean. No escape, no audience, no influence. There, the man who once controlled Europe lived as a prisoner. Time slowed. Silence surrounded him. Napoleon reflected deeply. He wrote. He dictated memories. He analyzed his choices. For the first time, he fully confronted his flaws. He admitted arrogance. He admitted impatience. He admitted that power distorted judgment. Isolation stripped away illusion. Years passed. Health declined. Napoleon Bonaparte died in exile. Not on a battlefield. Not on a throne. But his story did not die, because Napoleon represents something eternal. He proves that origin does not limit destiny, that discipline can defeat privilege, that intelligence can rewrite fate. But he also leaves a warning. Ambition without restraint destroys itself. Power without humility collapses. Success without balance invites downfall. Napoleon rose because he learned faster than others. He fell because he stopped listening. His life teaches the ultimate lesson. Dream big. Work relentlessly. Think strategically, but never believe you are untouchable, because history does not forgive arrogance, and time eventually humbles everyone. That is the legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte.